Hello. Welcome everybody. Thank you all for being here. We are really happy to have Kirsten Puskar here with us, who's going to do some talking with us about diabetes, and we'll be able to answer some questions for us. I'm going to have everybody muted to start with, and then when you have a question, I'll unmute everybody so we can have a question and answer session also. Um, Cynthia, did you tell us, are you here because you're diabetic, pre-diabetic, or interested in nutrition information?
I'm just interested in some information. I had gotten a diagnosis that I'm pre-diabetic. I was pretty low on that, well, just at that breaking point. So I'm trying to do it with food and try not to eat too much. So I'm not diabetic. It runs in my family, though.
Great, great. Well, you're in the right spot. So I'm going to turn it on over to Kirsten. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is our first time doing a Zoom, so honestly, I'm glad there's not too many of us. Sometimes my classes have over 20 people, so I love that we're only having a few, and the fact that we're in the pre-diabetes section, our glucose is a little high, our blood sugar is a little high. This will be a class more centered on food. I'm not going to talk about so much the medicines. Behind me is, I work with Center on the Hill. I do the diabetes nutrition workshop every Wednesday. We're doing it from 1 to 2 right now. But in July, we're going to move to 12 to 1. And so we'll do that. So every Wednesday, check your email and click on the link, and then we can see each other again. Let's see. So behind me is a conversation map. And when we met at the church face to face, you would see this thing. It's about 3 feet tall and 4 feet wide. It's really big, and it goes through the whole journey of diabetes. And the most important thing to remember is everybody has diabetes differently. And diabetes isn't like the flu or kidney disease or all these other different diseases. Kidney disease is diabetes is basically your pancreas is having some trouble. It can't give you enough insulin to open your cells to let the blood sugar out of the bloodstream and into the cells. So it accumulates in the bloodstream, and the way that, well, the molecule of sugar is huge, and it can't go like with magnesium and calcium and all the other minerals and vitamins. The nutrient can't leave the blood circulation, the bloodstream, and just flow into the cells. It has to have a special door, and that door is opened by insulin. So that's called insulin receptors, and I call them the doors on the cell. And when we eat something, our body realizes, well, especially our pancreas realizes, that we have some sugar in our bloodstream, and it sends out some insulin. And the insulin goes to these doors, opens them up, and then the sugar can leave the bloodstream and go into the cells. People who have insulin resistance, their doors don't open. People who a lot of times will have diabetes and they don't have enough insulin, their bloodstream can be full of sugar, and all of their cells are starving, and they can't get the sugar to get the energy because there's no insulin to open the doors. And if it gets really bad, your blood sugar can go up to 300, 400, 600, 1200 milligrams per deciliter, and it's called diabetes ketoacidosis. And that is unfortunately how a lot of my patients realize that they have diabetes, because they had to go to the hospital. Hope now that you have been checking your blood sugar, you go to the doctor every year. It's a standard thing that they always check our blood sugars. And that way, if your blood sugar is high, that your pancreas is having a little bit of trouble, and we want to figure out a way to reduce your blood sugar. And so the first thing is on this map is down here in the corner, where you are your own boss. So whether you have pre-diabetes or diabetes or your sugar's high, whatever, you know what your numbers are, you know how little insulin you might have. With everybody here, we all have a good amount of insulin. If your sugar is a little bit high, you just have a little bit less. They track this on your A1C. I don't know if anybody's had this A1C blood test, but people who don't have diabetes, they're between 4.5% and like 5.7%. And once you get above 5.7 to 6.5%, that is pre-diabetes. And when you're 5.7 or 6.5 and above, then you have diabetes. And I have seen people who have diabetes 7.5, 8.5, 14.5. And those numbers that I'm telling you about, the percentage, has to do with how much sugar is on the red blood cells. So the red blood cells have a protein on them called HbA1c. It comes out of our bone marrow every 3 months. Well, actually, it comes out and it lasts for 3 months in our bloodstream. And it's floating around. And if we have regular sweet blood, you know, because we need sugar for energy, you'll have A1C of less than 5.7%. And if you have it between 5.7, you know it's prediabetes. And like I said, if you're get your A1C back and it's 7%, yep, you have diabetes. It means that those red blood cells have 7% of frosting on them. So your blood cell comes out of your bones and it's like a cornflake. There's no frosting. And over the 3 months, if you don't have diabetes, you have like 5.5% frosting. That's fine. But then once you get into over 6 and 7, then you have diabetes. And like I said, some people have 14% frosting on every one of those blood cells. So we have to think about, you know, what we're doing that is causing our blood sugar to rise. Some people, it is medicine. Like if you're taking a steroid, that will increase people's blood sugar. If you are stressed, if you have a boss and he's terrible, and right now with Corona and everything that's happened, everybody's so stressed, everybody's blood sugar is up. I have this one guy, he is on an antidepressant and his blood sugar was really high, started on this new medicine, and it's supposed to calm him. He's supposed to do a bunch of different things where he can work better. And he found out that his blood sugar went down, and that was because he you know, was more calm. His stress level went down because of this medicine. So that's interesting. But yes, of course, if you eat carbohydrates, your blood sugar is going to go up. Carbohydrate is carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen, CHO. And carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen becomes this big molecule. Like I said, it can't go from the bloodstream into the cell, but it's also coarse, and it can block capillaries, especially if you have a lot of blood sugar. It will block the capillaries, so then the nerves can't get the blood that it needs so that they can feel, so the nerves can feel. So this can block nerves in your fingers and your toes. It can block it in your eyesight. These are complications from high blood sugar. So we want to exercise, drink lots of water, moderate our carbohydrate intake. I have a couple of ladies who are on an 800-calorie diet. It's driving me crazy. That very few calories, and guess what? They're really tired. They have to take a nap every afternoon. So we have to think about having enough carbohydrates to maintain our energy level. But having a good mix of carbohydrates, this can be fruits and vegetables and grains, and then with proteins, which could be nuts and seeds and cheese and eggs and animal protein. All of these things are proteins. And then we have the carbohydrates, which also have fiber. Now I'm getting into the food groups. So this is going to be difficult without everybody talking to me. If I'm going too fast, actually, let's stop right now. Does anybody have any questions? We're good?
I have questions.
I unmuted everybody. Sorry, they're unmuted now.
When
Yeah,
I mean, you said you were going to talk about diet nutrition later, but I have some questions about that, but they can wait.
I mean, I think you can ask. Go ahead and ask.
Well, I feel as though it may be better for you to go ahead and finish the basics first, rather than interrupt it. But I do have questions eventually about diet.
Does anyone else have any questions for Kirsten thus far?
yes, this is Sharon. I wanted to ask about the A1C test. Is that a special test that you have to ask your physician for? Hello?
Sorry, hold on.
Yeah, the A1C test. Is that
Yeah,
a special
I'm just
test?
trying to unmute her. Kirsten, you have to unmute yourself. You got muted. Unmute. Hold on, she's just
yeah,
unmuting herself. She'll
I got
answer
it.
for you. There you go.
Yeah, A1C is a very expensive test. So if your doctor doesn't recommend it, I don't recommend it. Somebody told me it was something like $400. It's not worth it. If your blood sugar is elevated, and say you were in the hospital and you got your A1C in the hospital was 12%, and now it's been a few months, like maybe 4 months and you don't have high blood sugar anymore, I would then ask your doctor to recommend that test. But if you're just curious where you fall, if you're in the 4.7 or 5.5, your insurance will not cover it. It's very, like I said, it's just not worth it. And honestly, I have seen people who are in a good zone. So they are between 6.5 and 7.5. However, they will have blood sugars in the 50, which means they almost pass out, it's too low, and all the way up to 400, which is really, really high. And it averages out to 6.75 and 7.5. So I think the best thing is to look at instances where you might have low blood sugar or might have high blood sugar. And that's where the continuous glucose monitor comes into play. So we normally, the standard way of checking our blood sugar is there's a glucometer, and it has a little piece of paper that can read how much sugar is in your blood. So you put the paper into the glucometer, you prick your finger, you take a little blood drop, it goes on the paper, and within 5 seconds, the glucometer can tell you, oh, your blood sugar is 120. That's lovely. You want it to be between 80 and 140. So you're 120, that's beautiful. But if you check your blood sugar and it says 250 or 350, then I would call my doctor and say, hey, I got this really weird blood sugar. And maybe it's a medicine, maybe you have an infection, or maybe your pancreas can't keep up with the amount of carbohydrates you've been eating. So, but yeah, there's well, let me just see. On this map, is about how you are in control. So make sure you know your numbers when you go see your doctor. Always bring your lab results when you see your doctor so they can know, oh, your blood sugar was this, or how is your liver function, how is your kidney function. We always want to check those things out. So if you're going to the doctor and you didn't get your labs done, it's kind of a waste of a visit. Don't waste your copay on that. So you're in control, and you've got a whole team. You've got your dentist, your eye doctor, your foot doctor, your cardiologist, your dermatologist, and your endocrinologist or your regular doctor. Either one is fine. And as we go up this road, there's a thing about myths and facts. And there's a lot of, not so much myths anymore. It used to be, oh, I ate too much candy when I was a kid. That caused me to get diabetes. That's not the case. We're all geared to have diabetes, and it's really our lifestyle and other genetics that can pull the trigger and give us diabetes or not. So it's something what you did when you're young is not how you ended up with diabetes. It's more a genetic thing. And then over here, this guy is unloading his luggage from his car because there's a lot of baggage with diabetes. We have, there's fear here, and anger, denial, frustration, guilt, but I wish those bags were smaller. There's a little bag here called strength. Yeah, we need strength. There's a lot of different ways we can improve our blood sugars. Hope, like I said, whether we're gonna do it with lifestyle or if your doctor recommends metformin, these are inexpensive, they're cheap medicines that work very well. There's a little one here called sadness. You could be allergic to peanuts. You could have congestive heart failure. The fact that you have diabetes, that's not so bad. And the top of the thing here is all the different body parts. It looks like a library or a municipal building with all the different offices. We have muscle in your pancreas. You have insulin from the B cells. We have the liver. We have intestines and body fat and kidneys and brain. And all of these in the center lead to high blood sugar. So I do have a screen. I might be able to show it to you. I wonder if I can do that. Let's see. I'm going to do over here, share screen. Oops, that's right here and right there. And share screen. Hold on a second. There we go. And I can go down. Yes, I have a master's degree. I'm a dietitian. I'm also a certified diabetes care and education specialist, and I'm also licensed in Pennsylvania. And I work with Ambler Nutrition and Chestnut Hill Endocrinology. And over here, I gotta go down. There's different types of diabetes, but I wanna talk about this. Can you all see this in the center? It says hyperglycemia. That means high sugar. Hyper is high and glycemia is sugar. So we have all the different body parts. First, on the upper left, it's light blue. It's called decreased insulin secretion. That thing is your pancreas. And in your pancreas, you have you have a lot of different kinds of cells. But the ones that we're concerned with is the B cells that make insulin, the A cells that make your body glucagon. When it's released in your body, it's a hormone. It makes your muscles give your blood sugar more blood sugar. And then there's amylin, which makes insulin work a little bit longer, and GLP-1 and all these other things. You can see all this purple stars. That's another hormone that comes from the pancreas. So the light blue thing is the pancreas, and if that's not working well, bingo, you got high blood sugar. In our stomach and intestines, again, this GLP-1 hormone, that also makes the insulin last longer so that we get the sugar out of our bloodstream. If that's not, we don't have enough of that, that doesn't work. When we lose weight, your fat has calories in it, and it also increases your blood sugar. So every fat cell includes 2 parts water and 1 part sugar. So when you lose weight, your blood sugar is going to go up. In your kidneys, when we eat food, if we don't have enough water, the kidneys will not release all of that sugar out of your bloodstream. So we want to drink plenty of water to let everything flow right out of our kidneys. And all of this medicines all work in all of these organs. The muscles, again, glucagon releases the sugars from your muscles, makes your blood sugar go up. Your brain, so artificial sugar, when you have it, your brain senses some sugar's coming and gets the body ready to have some insulin. And if you're having sweet stuff all day long, that pancreas is like, where's the sugar? Where's the sugar? Where's the sugar? It kind of burns itself out. So we're going to watch out for the sugar-free things. Then the liver, this is how metformin works. When we eat during the day, we don't really need sugar, but when we stop eating at dinner time and we go all through the night, the liver helps us, our brains, our lungs, and our hearts give enough sugar to last through the night, and then we have breakfast. The key with metformin, and some people with diabetes, they just have diabetes of the liver, and the liver just gives sugar all day long. And then we get back to the increased glucagon secretion. That's the A cells from the pancreas, and then the B cells give you the insulin. So it's our whole body that does this, increases our blood sugar. And that's this part over here. And then as we go through, there's a banner right here that says things that can make your blood sugar go up or down. And we're talking about food. Yeah, cake and chocolate and all these kind of things, that is going to definitely increase your blood sugar. Carbohydrates are not just sweet things. It's anything with carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, carbohydrates. So that could be potato chips, potatoes, bread, of course, pancakes and cupcakes and candy and all of that too. So, but also fruit. These all are very high in carbohydrates. And if there's a lot of fiber, it slows down our absorption of it, which would be great. So that's why a whole orange or a pear is better than a pear soda or a orange juice, glass of orange juice. There's more fiber in the actual fruit, and it doesn't increase our blood sugar so fast. Illness, yeah, if you got a toothache or you twisted your ankle, your blood sugar is going to be high. Activity, so if you get on the treadmill in the first couple minutes, you check your blood sugar, your sugar will increase because of your muscles is holding all that sugar, and it knows you're doing motion, so it releases it into your bloodstream. So if you're worried about your blood sugar, don't check the first 5 minutes of exercise. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes before you start burning fat. And then stress, like I said, a bad day, your sugar is going to be up. Alcohol increases your blood sugar because alcohol is a toxin, and your body sees this as an intruder, as something it needs to fight against and get out of your body, especially for women. There is a hormone that helps us break down alcohol. It's called alcohol dehydrogenase, and men have like 3 or 4 times what women do. So women, when you come into the restaurant and somebody hands you a glass of champagne, try to have some food in your stomach first. That's, again, fiber and things that can dilute that toxin, so then you won't have such high blood sugar. But of course, who likes vodka straight? You got to mix it with some juice or some sweet mixers, right? Watch out for the alcohol. And then like medicines, what we told about before with the steroids and that kind of thing. And as we go down here, there's a bus, and it talks about what makes your signs of high blood sugar, and down here signs of low blood sugar. High blood sugar people don't recognize. That's what makes diabetes so dangerous. So Your blood sugar could be, oh, I will just tell you, there's somebody who was in our office. Their blood sugar was 595. She's walking fine. She can see. Her feet didn't hurt her. It was amazing. And they did not give her insulin. We're in an office. We have tons of insulin. We did not give it to her. If we had given her insulin, it would have blown out her cells. It is just beyond. So what they gave her, 3 bottles of water. And same thing when they come in for DKA, diabetes ketoacidosis, in the emergency room. First thing they do, saline. Just a whole bunch of bags of saline that wash that sugar out of their body through their kidneys. And then once their sugar comes down into the 300s or so, they can give them some insulin. So some people with high blood sugar will have thirst and hunger and got to go to the bathroom all the time. They'll have, some people will have headaches, or they'll have blurred vision. Their feet or their fingers will hurt. That's in usually extreme cases of that. But generally, we never know. It's funny, you can eat cake and have all this high blood sugar, and then what do you want? More cake and everything. So watch out with, you know, look at your portion size. Sometimes it's hard to remember what we already ate, and to avoid high blood sugar. Then the situation with low blood sugar, now that can be tricky. Again, there are some people out there who don't feel it. I had a guy, he was walking around in the 40s, and he should have been passed out according to Drexel. But you know, the book learning, everybody's diabetes is different. And actually, when I was pregnant, I had a blood sugar of 25, and they couldn't believe it. And all these different glucometers, different people can do different things. I know of some people who've passed out in the 60s, where you think that they would be fine. So everybody's different, and you just got to watch out for yourself. With the low blood sugar, it's going to make you shaky, and you want to eat everything in the house. So the best thing to eat, it's crazy. All you do is a half a cup of juice, just a half a cup of soda, and wait 15 minutes. It's really tough. So I know you don't have your brain. A lot of times with low blood sugar, you won't have your brain with you. You know, you're very confused, and you're panicked, and you're hungry, and you're shaking. And not only that, it can be really cold, and you're going to sweat. It's very strange. So low blood sugar is not comfortable. If you get down into the 50s and 60s, it's supposed to ruin your day. I know people that it doesn't, but just so you know, don't push it. Like a lot of people are trying to reduce this is if their A1C is in the 10 or 12, and they're trying to get it down to 8. They'll starve themselves. They'll make sure they don't have any carbohydrates, and they end up with this really low blood sugar, and they've got confusion and then these kind of things. So low blood sugar, you want to have 15 grams of carbs, and that is going to be a half a cup of juice or a half a cup of soda. If you have high blood sugar and somehow you realize it, if you check your blood sugar or you don't, the best thing is move around and drink water. Both of those things will make more doors come to the surface of our cells. We drink water, the sugar gets lubricated, the insulin can go into those doors and open them up. So then the sugar gets out of your bloodstream and it goes into your cells, and then you're comfortable. So drinking a lot of water is a great idea. And it's also a good idea to try to drink as much water as you can, you know, how much water you're supposed to drink for the day, say between 3 and 4 bottles, 16-ounce bottles of water. If you drink them, you know, before dinner, you're probably in good shape. But if you realize you only had 1 bottle and you're going to try to drink three of those bottles with dinner, you're going to be up a lot going to the bathroom. So try to modulate your water so you have it mostly during the day. So yeah, high blood sugar, you want to drink water and exercise. Low blood sugar, you want to have a little bit of carbohydrate. There are these glucose tablets. They're very chalky. You would never snack on them, which is a good thing. You might have to take 3 or 4 of them, and then you'd have it with water. You know, you chew them up. They're, like I said, they're really chalky. The ones at Walmart are pretty tasty, but the ones at CVS, not so much. Just FYI. Then we come into when do you check your blood sugar? This is a guy with his glucometer out. He's about to get in the car, and he wants to see what his blood sugar is. If he is about to go on a long drive, he wants his blood sugar to be, you know, between 100 and 150. He doesn't want to get in the car at 80, because then you know his blood sugar will drop, and then he'll get confused. And then he's in the car. I have a couple of pregnant ladies. They've told me their blood sugar dropped, and this is gestational diabetes, and they forgot what turn to make to get to where they live, and then they had the glucose tablets, and then they remembered, oh, I missed my turn here, and here I go. But otherwise, they're like driving around the neighborhood with confusion. I also have a friend of mine, he's type 1, and he was putting out Christmas decorations, and he forgot to have I guess it was a big project. He thought he could get it done in the morning, and lunchtime had come and gone. And this is about 2 o'clock. So we had all this nice along the porch, and then in the tree, and the neighbor's porch, and then down there, and the wife is like, wait a minute, what are you decorating? You know, he just lost his mind. So gave him a little orange juice, he had some lunch, and he was good again. But it's kind of a funny story. It's not funny when you have low blood sugar. Just maintain breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's the best way. Even if you're not hungry in the morning, just have a little something. Some berries and nuts covers all the food groups. Water, coffee, tea, these kind of things are great. As he's checking his blood sugar, so you want to check your blood sugar before you go on a drive, before you go to the gym, before you know you're going to do some yard work. Check your blood sugar, see where you are. And again, this is for people whose blood sugar can be down in the 60s or up in the 200s. But if you're pre-diabetes, chances are your blood sugar is always between 80 and 140, which is nice. Let's see, then we're over here to, this is a farmer's market. So what you eat is important. The food groups, there's 4 of them. It isn't like when we grew up. It's carbohydrates and fiber, and proteins and fat. And with carbohydrates and fiber, they always go together, and proteins and fat always go together. So whether it's peanuts, peanut has peanut oil, so there's a protein in the fat. Whether it's an apple, apple's going to have fiber, there's a carbohydrates and fiber. And it goes the same with cheese and crackers, nuts and grapes, you know, these kind of things. So if you're not hungry, at least have a snack, and then have something in midday. If you can have most of your food for lunch and breakfast, you will lose weight. It's even people who need to gain weight, they will gain weight if they have the breakfast and lunch. Breakfast and lunch is like the most important meals, and they're the ones that most people skip. And they're finding that, I guess I can tell you this. There's a study about GERD, and they're trying to figure out why people have this acid reflux. And they found that people, our stomachs are in tune with the sunshine. We wake up in the morning, the sunshine comes up, we are ready, our digestive tract is ready to digest and absorb a lot of nutrients. So having breakfast, having lunch, your stomach is great. A lot of people don't do that. And then it's dinner time, and oh, you're ravishing. Sun goes down, you're not as active, you're sitting down watching the news or whatever. Your digestive system isn't working that good. So a little bit of food all of a sudden makes you full, and that food ends up not moving in your stomach much. And you have this little sphincter that is on the top of your stomach that goes up to your esophagus, and it's not closed very much. So if we can have more of our food for breakfast and lunch, it's really difficult, but that's how we're going to maintain a good weight, whether we need to gain weight or lose weight. And what I'm finding with a lot of my patients is make a big dinner, but just have a quarter of it. Save the rest for lunch. If you can have 3/4 of your dinner for lunch, that's fantastic. If you save the hard to digest things, the proteins and hearty vegetables and these kind of things, the grains too, that would be proteins and grains. That would be a great thing for lunch. And you had mostly the vegetables for dinner, you could do that. That's boring. Just have an even percentage of it, and you'll do really great. So that's what you eat, how much you eat. Again, save your dinner for lunch. That's the best thing. And then when you eat, again, when you wake up, midday, and a couple hours before you go to bed. If you can give yourself at least 2 hours, that's a minimum, but 3 or 4 is even better. But I know a lot of people who eat at 5 o'clock and they don't go to bed till 1 o'clock in the morning. After about 4 hours, your body's like, hey, I think I'm hungry. So you may need a snack at 10 p.m. And then if you go to bed at 1, you're still in good shape. So think about not stressing your body out, and make sure it has food every 4 to 6 hours. Every 6 hours, that's a good time. And then as we go down here, it talks about diabetes medicines, and that is one, I can talk about that for the whole day. It's really boring. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but that's going to be the 3rd week of every month I talk about the medicines. But basically you saw all those 8 different body parts, that's where the medicines work on. So that's that. And then we come to your medical team. So the last thing is, again, your eye doctor, your foot doctor. Well, right now, if you just have pre-diabetes, you're going to be mostly interested in your regular doctor. And if it goes worse, then you're going to have to see an endocrinologist. If your doctor is not, if he's going right to insulin, go see an endocrinologist. But generally, they go to metformin and some glipizide, some pills, which is fine. If what they're really finding, I'll just give you A spoiler alert, the key to reversing diabetes, especially in the pre-diabetes and high blood sugar range, is you have to have more vegetables than meat. Meat is very hard on the pancreas. And by meat, I mean anything that comes from an animal, whether it's eggs, cheese, chicken, fish. If it's an animal, clams, shrimp, it has animal proteins in it. And it's very difficult for our bodies to digest that. The pancreas has to give 5 different enzymes to digest animal protein. So if we can have some meatless meals, if you can have it 3 days in a row, if you got your blood sugar and you're able to check, that would be great. But just know that if you look at your day, and if you're seeing that you're having eggs for breakfast, tuna sandwich for lunch, and fish or chicken for dinner, and not very many vegetables, you know you did not have half your day as vegetables. So we're looking for 5 cups. So if you're going to have eggs, you want spinach and onions and peppers and things with it. If you don't want to have eggs, take a look, and in the tofu, I know this is crazy, I do not like tofu. I do not like tempeh. I think they are chalky and gross. However, thanks to the millennials and all these plant-based diets, check out the tofu section of the grocery store. Sometimes it's in with the vegetables, sometimes it's around the corner with the organic section. And in there, they have breakfast sausages that are to die for. They can be little finger sausages. They can be big patties that you make. They can be crumbled. I have not found one that is bad yet. However, hot dogs, they're not good at yet, so don't try the hot dogs yet. But the breakfast sausage, they really have it. It's good with syrup or ketchup. I mean, they're really like breakfast sausages. Making a hash with some vegetables, a little bit of potato, and those breakfast sausages, they have a ton of protein and no animal protein at all. No cholesterol, no fat. You might have to add a little oil in the pan. It's wonderful. But that's a good option for breakfast. Definitely have a salad for lunch, or roasted vegetables for lunch, or your dinner for lunch with lots of vegetables. And then for dinner, again, if you just had some roasted broccoli, yum. Roasted cauliflower, put some seasonings on it. That's a great dinner. Or just take your regular dinner plate and put it on like a cake plate. And that's how much you're going to have for dinner. And if you want some more, have a salad or have some vegetables with it. But just keep the portion of your dinner very small. Drink lots of fluids during the day. That all helps with keeping you full. And yeah, getting full on vegetables, that will cure your diabetes, and it will also help you lose weight. And at the very end is just, you know, your own goal. Your doctor may say, you don't have diabetes, you only have pre-diabetes. But this is the best time to turn it around. I have so many people in my diabetes classes that are mad. If they had only been told about nutrition back in, you know, in the pre-diabetes times, then they would be feeling a lot better. Let's see, it's about 20 of, oh, I do have one other screen. Do we have any questions right now?
Yes.
Go
Hello?
ahead.
Oh, I wasn't sure you could hear me. No, well, one question was about the A1C test. At what number indicates diabetes? What's
Pre-diabetes is 5.7 and above, and diabetes is 6.5 and above.
okay, so 5.7 to 6.5 is pre-diabetes.
Pre-diabetes, yeah.
So below 5.7, you're actually not even in pre-diabetes stage.
That's right. That's right. And also know that this is an estimate. You can have your A1C. Somebody messed up their A1C test and they got a different result, and it was only 1 day apart. You know, whether it's 6.2 or 6.5, literally, it was like 3 or 4 points apart. So you know if you're in the 5s, or you know if you're in the 8s. You know, if you're in the 6 or 7s, you're in good shape. Well, you have diabetes.
Right, diabetes starts at 6 point, what was it again?
6.5.
6.5, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, if you're at 6.5, you could have pre-diabetes, even at 6.6. It's just like, you know, a textbook cutoff, not real life cutoff.
All right.
So even if you're at 6.8, I would look at, you know, reducing your meat intake and having more plant-based proteins, and giving your pancreas a break so it can heal, and then it can give the right amount of insulin again.
But would you recommend, for example, at below 6.5 using metformin, if it's a, you know?
Yeah, some doctors recommend that. I don't know everything about, if you had liver disease, that is one thing that people don't want to have metformin, or if you're anemic, they don't want to give you metformin. But other than that, metformin is pretty harmless. It just stops your liver from giving you too much sugar. It won't reduce your blood sugar in your veins right now, and it won't give you low blood sugar. It will always let you get just enough.
But if
So
you're below 6.5, wouldn't it be better just to change diet rather than rely on metformin?
that's between you and your doctor. Of course, I'm going to say your diet is great, but I don't want, you know, if I do have another patient and she was at 6.7, the doctor gave her metformin. She's at 5.5, 5.6. I'm like, well, geez, you don't have diabetes. Why are you on metformin? And then she told me she was on metformin. But if she goes off of it, bam, her blood sugar goes back up to 6.8.
One question
So,
about balsamic vinegar, but not the kind that is aged for a long time, then it's very thick. You know what I'm talking about?
you're talking about diabetes?
Balsamic vinegar.
Oh,
But the kind of balsamic vinegar that's been aged for a long time, for years,
yeah.
and it comes out very syrupy, not like the cheaper version. Uh, yeah. Is that allowed for people with diabetes?
Oh, sure, 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 sure. Chocolate, candy, anything you want. It's just going to be the carb of the meal. So we want, if you're going to have, if you know you want to, I have a nurse and she has to have her Pepsi. It's a full sugar Pepsi, and there's not a lot of chemicals in it. It's just sugar and, you know, cola. So I say, okay, on the days that you know is going to be tough, or you know you're going to have Pepsi on that day, then your lunch is not going to have any carbs in it. It's going to be salad with tuna fish, and then you get the Pepsi. So having a balsamic, just know maybe you don't want to have so much dinner bread at that meal. You can have a half a piece, but you know, if you're going to have a balsamic vinegar, can go on salad, it can go on ice cream, it can go on strawberries.
But I was particularly concerned about the kind that's the kind that's been aged. Is very
Yeah.
syrupy.
If you want to have a couple tablespoons of that and you want to drink it straight, that's fine. Just have it with a meal and have less carbs in that meal. But it's really not liquid sugar. You know, like if you were to drink agave, for example. I know what you're talking about. It is good on strawberries, but it still has a lot to it. You know, I bet there's a little bit of oil in there, definitely has a little bit of sugar, but vinegar is it's a chemical. It's basically an acid. So, but that one, when it's aged and delicious, if you want it, you should have it. I have a lot of people who want chocolate. Absolutely, they should have it. But when they're having it with a meal doesn't increase their blood sugar.
What about wine?
Wine is the same thing. Have it with a meal. You're lucky you have a lot of that alcohol dehydrogenase. So I think men can have 2 glasses a day. Men can have 2 servings of alcohol a day. Their bodies can take it. Women can only have really 1 and have it with a meal. The men, any kind of serving is half a glass. That's a wine, 6 ounces. A shot of alcohol with, you know, any kind of mixer, but just know the mixer is going to be carbs or not. And then beer is, I think it's 12 ounces of beer is 1 serving.
A serving of wine is 6 ounces? One
Yeah.
glass?
Yeah.
So 12 ounces a day would be allowed.
For you. It would knock me on my face.
Okay. And fruit, I'm always confused about that. If you eat the whole fruit instead of drinking fruit juice,
Absolutely.
I mean, how much can you? I would imagine pineapple is very high in sugar.
Yeah, it is. Pineapple is high. The fruits that are not high in carbohydrates are berries and melons and grapes. Melons and grapes are diluted. They're mostly water. And berries are tart. They're not that sweet. You know, compared to a peach and a pineapple, you know, a strawberry or blackberry is much more sour. So they don't have as many carbs in them, and they're loaded with fiber. Same thing with melons, whether it's watermelon or grapes. There's a lot of fiber in those. But when you get into the peaches and the pineapples, they just have so much more sugar. Even though they have a lot of fiber, they just have a lot more sugar in them. So a half a cup is 1 serving. And you can have up to 3 per meal, and your body can handle it. If you're going to look on the back of ingredients or on a nutrition label, you would look 15 grams is 1 serving. So keeping it under 50 grams, you should be able to be fine for that meal.
I would have thought grapes would be high in sugar, but you say no.
What is that?
I thought grapes would be very high in sugar, but they're not.
No, it takes 17 grapes to equal 1 slice of bread. 17 is a lot, more than a handful. And if you were to have low blood sugar, they say you can have 17 grapes will bring your sugar back up. But if you just have 3 or 4, it's not going to do it. It's mostly water. Yeah, they are very sweet, but I don't know, they just don't have a lot of sugar in them.
I have one final question. You said watch out for sugar-free things. Now, you mean, for example, uh, sugar-free cookies, that kind of thing?
Absolutely.
Why
And
is-
gluten-free. Gluten-free and sugar-free, fat-free, that means extra, well, sugar-free doesn't, but gluten-free and fat-free mean extra sugar in it. And when the food is sugar-free, it's often just a little bit less sugar than the actual food. I would really rather you have the actual food, except for juice. Juice is not for anybody. I mean, it was great for little kids back in the day when they're out being very, very physical, but we are not physical nowadays like we were back in the 40s and 50s and 60s or the 70s even. I mean, we're just really not as active as a community, so we don't need to have juice anymore. If you really like a juice, if there's something you really want, cut it with some seltzer and ice cubes, you know, put some mint in it or some lemon in it. Those are wonderful. Seltzer with fruit in it is great, but you know, a whole glass of juice with a spritz of seltzer, you need more seltzer. It should be mostly seltzer and a little bit of juice.
Where the product says no sugar, for example, cookies which have, say, no sugar in the ingredients, would
Take
that,
a look at the carbs. You'll see on that package, they might have 45 grams of carbs per 3 cookies.
that's the catch.
Yeah, that's a catch. And if you're going to have it with a meal and you just had, I don't know what maybe you had a sandwich, or maybe you had a salad with some croutons or something with a lot of carbohydrate. Maybe you had a spinach salad with some strawberries. Okay, so there's going to be some carbohydrates in that. And then you have the sugar-free cookies. Just watch out because, you know, with the strawberries, again, it's a cup of strawberries, a cup of grapes, a cup of melon is 1 serving. But with all the other fruits, the pineapple and the peaches and carrot and not carrots, apples, and I can't think of enough, bananas, it's only a half a cup. So a half a cup is a serving.
Cut out sugar, refined sugar completely, or at least as much as you possibly can that you know of, not deliberately eating them.
I think that's a good idea. Sugar is really, so our brains are wired for us to live a long time, and we need a lot of calories fast. So when we were cavemen, we would seek out where the most calories are, and that's in fat and that's in sugar. And we also need minerals. So we need salt. So our bodies crave these things. And at Drexel, I was there back in 2015, but my advisor did this study, which still blows my mind. She said, everybody, what is with the obesity epidemic? And it's like, it is like an epidemic, like we're addicted. So she took, let's look at somebody who's addicted. So they took a person who's addicted to cocaine. They looked at their brain. Then they gave them cocaine and they looked at their brain. Their brain is completely lit up. So then they said, okay, let's find some people who have a sweet tooth, and they gave them some sugar. Their brain didn't light up. Same thing with somebody who likes all the greasy stuff. Nope, their brain didn't light up either, and same thing with salt. But once they put the salt, the fat, and the sugar together, their brains lit up like cocaine, addicted cocaine people. So this is very difficult. And if you are trying to lose weight and you want to have less food in your life, you know, during the day, watch out for the refined sugar. It's like cocaine, because the foods that you're going to eat it with is going to have a little salt, a little fat, and then it's going to make you hungry all day long. And it's very uncomfortable to be hungry. So I know when I go for my colonoscopy every 5 years or whatever, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, the whole day I get a little bit of broth. I'm perfectly fine. It's because I haven't had sugar.
Right.
So think about that.
Thank you.
Sure. Anybody has another question? It's about 10 of. I love to talk. Next week, we're going to talk more about food. We're going to talk about the food groups and that kind of thing. Then we're going to take a week. No, then it's July 1st. So that's going to be this class again. And then we're going to talk about food again. And then we're going to take a week break in the middle of July. And then the last 2 weeks, I'm going to talk about complications. And the last week, I want to talk about a recipe. But I'm trying to decide if maybe I want to do a recipe next week. I have this amazing recipe for vegetarian meatloaf, and we just made it. Well, we made it about a couple of weeks ago, and we just had it for lunch today. And I just had it on a salad. Oh my gosh, it is so yummy! And so many people are struggling with, you know, meatless meals, and I think we're kind of sick of the vegetarian chili all the time. But meatloaf is, you can have it as a sandwich, you can have it on a salad, you can have it as meatloaf for a dinner with a vegetable and a, you know, a starch. I know. I'm just thinking about it.
I say
That
do
sounds
it.
great.
Yeah. Tell us all about it next week.
Okay.
I do a question for you. Because you started to touch on this, and you've told me this before, and I think this is really important. Talk about artificial sweeteners, because we see things where it's like no sugar, and so then we're like, oh cool, I'm gonna go drink this. Like I fell victim to the seltzers, no sugar, no
Oh,
sodium
I did too.
seltzer.
I was like, these are so sweet. I just love these things. And then I saw they had artificial sugar in them.
So talk
So
about why
yummy.
that's something to be concerned.
You know what it is really? In our digestive tract, in our intestines, and in our stomachs, we have bacteria. I know it sounds gross, but they're actually really good for us. And these bacteria help. They used to think, oh, your gut biome, it helps you go to the bathroom every day. Who cares about that? That's not as important. What they really do is they balance our hormones, whether it's insulin or testosterone or estrogen or our cholesterol. It helps us sleep better, helps us clear our brains, all kinds of things. These bugs are really part of this, and we have to do good things for them. There's bad bugs out there also, and that's where you get different kinds of illnesses or infections, and they give you antibiotics for these. And those bad bugs thrive on artificial sugar and processed foods, all these chemical food ingredients. They just love it, and they take over, and then we feel miserable. We might gain weight. We might have a high blood sugar because we don't have good hormone balance, all these kind of things. Not sleeping well, we're stressed. So if we can get away from the artificial sugar and the processed foods and have more real foods, I know it takes a lot of planning, but once you get the hang of it, I'll give you a bunch of recipes and things, it works out a whole lot better. But the good bugs thrive on vegetable protein. So the more vegetables you can get into your diet, whether it's celery stick or carrots, onions, beets, all these, there is no vegetable that is off limits. Everyone says, oh, I don't want to have beets or carrots or onions, those are high in sugar. Yeah, if you eat like 10 tons of them, a regular serving, a half a cup or a cup is delightful, and it's so good for your gut biome.
For diabetics?
Absolutely. Even for diabetics, I would still say you can have a half a cup of potatoes, or even a little bit more if you wanted to, but definitely, mix it up with whole grains, the quinoa. There's a thing called hemp hearts that I want to try. I want to see if I can get a recipe for that. They're really high in protein. A lot of vegetables are very high in protein. Broccoli, spinach, peas, asparagus. There's a couple other ones. 1 cup of that is the same thing as an egg. I mean, it's that much protein. So thinking about having more vegetables in your life, you have more protein, helps you build your muscles. It feeds your gut biome.
Well,
Did I get off the topic?
Sort of a Mediterranean diet that you're talking about.
Yeah, minus the fish. But no, if you want to have fish a couple times a week, I'm fine with that. If you can have a plant-based proteins for the other 5 days of the week, you are gonna reverse your diabetes. You're gonna do amazing. There's actually a couple of, I wonder if I can, I'm gonna try to share my screen again. There's a couple of documentaries that you all might be interested in, because you're on the cusp of having diabetes, not having diabetes. Hold on, go here and go over here.
Quickly back to the non-sugar substitutes. What about stevia?
It's the same thing as, it just tricks your body.
Okay.
So I have sugar, have sugar. Oh, if you want to see the medicines, can you see the screen?
I can.
Yeah, big one days, the TZB, the DPP4, the SGLT2, the sulfonylureas, the non-sulfonylureas, and metformin. All of these are pills. So there's a lot of different kinds of pills you can take. And all of these are injections, whether it's the GLP-1 RA, they call them the GLP ones. It's Ozempic and Trulicity, Bydureon, Victoza, Byetta. All these are injectables. And then there's the long-lasting insulin. One insulin lasts 6 to 12 hours, and then the fast-acting lasts about 20 minutes. So there's a lot of different choices with medicines for diabetes. But hopefully, we're going to not have medicines for you guys. These, at the very end, it says films. The Engine 2 diet talks about a plant-based diet and getting people healthier. There's actually, it's not just diabetes. It's kidney disease, heart disease, cancer. A whole bunch of different things. So Engine 2 diet talks about that. Game Changer is a documentary about Olympic athletes. So I thought, oh, if you're sick, you should have more plants. No, if you're an Olympic athlete, you will blow the competition away by not having meat. So something to think about. What the Health is just a film to make you mad. So know that you're just going to be mad. you know, fast forward through it, get the gist in the beginning, look at the end. Don't listen to all the stories. I hate. And forks over knives is interesting though. That's another one. Forks is like for vegetables, and knives you got to cut your chicken, you know, that kind of thing. So, but these are big trends with plant-based diets and research. And these research are epidemiological studies. It's a big word, but it means that they're looking at how people live. They're looking at the Asian culture. They're looking at the, you know, people who don't have a lot of meat in their diet, Africans and these kind of things. And what kind of diseases do they have? And then they move to the United States, and then they get all these diseases. So this is not looking at studies where they gave rats 10,000 times the sucralose that you would normally eat and see, hey, see, they're fine, it's okay. No, not that kind of study. It's about how people live. But then at the end is the films, which are pretty interesting. One thing over here, yeah, the latest trends in diabetes is looking at your blood sugar and not so much your A1C. Keeping your blood sugar within range 70%, and that's where people are going to wear Freestyle Libre. It's just a little sensor that goes under your skin, and you have a reader, and it tells what your blood sugar is anytime you want to check it. You can check it 100 times a day, but you're going to go crazy. Just check it, you know, 5 or 6 times whenever you think you feel funny. But keeping your blood sugar between 80 and 140 most of the time, 70%, that's a good thing. Finger sticks, looking at your finger. If anybody's taking a finger, imagine a line through the tip of your finger and then bring a line down, and on either side of that line, that is where you should check your blood sugar. People who are checking on the very tip, that is very painful. So, and definitely change your fingers. Don't keep doing the same place every time. It hurts and there's no good reason for it. So switch your fingers around. All fingers are good, even your thumb. I would do the pinky first, see how things go. HbA1c, the A1C test I was telling you about. Again, if your sugars are really high and you're changing, that's a good time to have your doctor give you the test. If you just want to know for nothing, your doctor can recommend it, but your insurance won't pay for it, and it's expensive. I think it's close to $400. CGM, it's continuous glucose monitoring. That's where you're wearing the Freestyle Libre or the Dexcom, or another one is called Insense, where they insert a little like rice thing underneath your skin. It's good for like a year. It's a little bit more invasive than I like, but again, if you're fluctuating and you need to know and you can't be switching out every 2 weeks, that's a good thing. Maybe for young infants, something like that. And then there's what medications you take once a week, so that's nice. And then the WFPB, so whole foods, plant-based diet. Having more of these in your diet is great. If you want to have a hamburger once a week, perfectly fine. But if you're going to have a hamburger 7 or 14 times a week, that's going to be a problem. Same thing with eggs. I knew this one guy, and he was having eggs for breakfast, egg salad sandwich for lunch, and then he would do a frittata for dinner. I'm like, it sounds great, but that is a lot of eggs. So there is a little connection with eggs and some kidney problems. So, you know, having 7 or 8 eggs a week, that's fine. But if you're going to be having them every day, all the time, that's a bit much. And then, yeah, then we get back to the links about.
I have to go, unfortunately. I want to thank you very much. It was very helpful.
My pleasure, my pleasure. I'm glad you could join us, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Tell your friends. And if you need one-on-one counseling, I'm with Ambler Nutrition. So
All right, thank you.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you very much.
It was good to see you. I'm glad you could all join us. Thanks.
Yeah, right. Bye now.
Bye.